Hello everyone, Artemu the Violet Wizard here, and today we're continuing the Pokémon SoulSilver Nuzlocke. Last time was a bit of a shorter session due to reasons, but we managed to explore a little bit of the sights around Violet City and have gotten ourselves a little bit stronger for the fight ahead. So yeah, time to finally do what we should have done a long time ago and challenge our first gym. This should be quite the interesting thing we're gonna do. Just want to quickly go over our team again because since the last time we haven't really seen too many improvements for our party. Everyone's just looking pretty good from last time. For this battle coming up, I would kind of recommend you be a little bit higher level for this, but I'm not too worried about this battle, really. Typically, in a lot of Nuzlocke runs, a lot of things that people do is sometimes they will have what is known as a level limit whenever they enter a gym, which is certainly a thing to help increase the challenge overall of the challenge. For me, though, I'm not going to be using a level limit. However, I do want to try to make sure my Pokemon are at an optimal level for whatever fight we are going up against. So I'm going to try not to overlevel the party too much, but also get them to a level where I feel like would be comfortable for them. So now that we have cleared up everything we can do at the Sprout Tower, yo, champ of the making! I'm no trainer, but I can give some advice. Believe me, if you believe that a championship dream could come true, you believe, then listen. This guy basically telling us some stuff about the flying gym here. Woo! Just ride that platform up. It's a nice little contrast between the original version of the gym and this new one. Is that we are now facing the gym leader way up here at the top of this tower. But yeah, the gym's definitely looking a bit bigger than it used to. Let's go right in and... Oh, right, I already defeated that guy, didn't I? Okay, I think what happened was... Yeah, I think I remember the last session I took these guys out before the whole, connection problems went through. But yeah, that went pretty smoothly, as you can tell. Alright, so this fight here, it's going to be a little interesting. Our team is definitely at a reasonable level for this. At the same time, there's one Pokemon that this gym leader could have that could give us some trouble. And I don't even know what Pokemon that's going to be, because this is a randomizer. Alright, but let's do this. I'm Faulkner, the Violet City Pokemon Gym Leader. People say you can clip flying-type Pokemon's wings with a jolt of electricity. I won't allow such insults to bird Pokemon. I'll show you the real power of the magnificent bird Pokemon. Yeah, let's just see if you actually have any birds on your team, buddy. It's Faulkner, the Violet City Gym Leader. Well, that's certainly not a bird. So he's got a Whismur replacing the Pidgey that he would normally have in this game. It's definitely not going to be too bad for us. Whismur can hit decently hard, but we got a pretty good party for this. Alright, Snorkel definitely took a bit of a big hit there. So wanted Snorkel to lead us off here because Snorkel's ability, which has been randomized to speed boost, it's definitely going to be pretty helpful against some of the threats here. And he also has Wise Glasses, which improves the power of his special attacks. It's making him a very solid lead here. Alright, and our next opponent is Clamperl. Really? Okay, that is interesting to say the least. I'm going to lead off with a Smoke Screen. Let's try and debuff this guy before we go in for the main fight here. Alright, that was a little worried about Iron Defense. So Clamperl is a Pokemon you're normally not supposed to encounter until a bit later on in most games. Oh, this is going to work out perfectly. Let's switch to Lydia. So what Clamperl's doing here, it can use Iron Defense to buff up its defense, making it harder for us to be able to... Ow! It did that much damage! Oh boy. Yeah, I was not counting on this thing to actually be able to hit hard. And because this thing is using Clamp, we cannot switch Lydia out. Oh, this is actually kind of bad. I don't have a lot of good healing items for this. I want to wait for an opening if this Clamperl is able to give us one, because I really don't want to lose Lydia here. Ah, jeez. Yeah, unless I see this thing use a different move, I'm just gonna have to use our potions here. God, this is actually really irritating. Whoop, it missed. Alright, thank goodness we used that smoke screen. Alright, now what I want to do is hit it with a disable when it goes for Clamp again. And with that, Clamperl can no longer use Clamp. For the time being. Alright, let's heal Lydia up again, and then we'll go on the offense. I wanted to send Lydia in here because her Nightshade attack is able to bypass her opponent's defensive stats and just deal a set amount of damage. Alright, we're freed from Clamp, this thing is disabled, let's go for Nightshade. That Clamp might actually be the only attack this Pokemon has. So yeah, already we're seeing just how much the randomizer is changing up. Just how... Oh, you got Whirlpool too. That's neat. Yeah, I'm already seeing just how much the randomizer can shake things up here. So I was not expecting this thing to be as painful as it is here. Of course, if we were a bit higher level, this probably wouldn't be too bad. And if we also had some other Pokemon that could counter this thing when it comes to its typing would also be helpful, but sadly we do not. But, oh, thank goodness we made it through that. Clamperl is down. We shall reap the bountiful experience. Alright, that was an exciting battle, really. So yep, our buddy Faulkner shall bow out. None of those Pokemon were birds, man! But for our efforts, we received the Zephyr Badge, the first of 16 badges that can be acquired in this game. Yeah, for those unfamiliar with Heart Gold and SoulSilver, there is a lot we're able to do here. And our prize for winning this is Roost. Could be pretty helpful for later, especially given that, well, given the kind of challenge this is, that will be really helpful. Alright, I am very glad we managed to get through that fight as well as we did. Snorkel, you definitely helped out with that smoke screen. We could not have made it past here without you. And of course, Lydia, with the damage you were dealing, that was so good. Alright. So with all that taken care of, I'm feeling pretty good. So let's go hop on out of here. Now that we have taken our victory. Oh, getting a call from Elm. What's this? Hello, July! We discovered something. The details are, well, can't really say anything, but we want you to carry that egg. My assistant's at the Pokemon Violet City. Let's go meet him and pick up that egg. So, just like in the original games, we are being tasked with looking after the egg that was given and to us from Mr. Pokemon that we then delivered to Professor Elm. And if anyone's familiar with this game, probably knows what's going to be inside the egg normally, but it's not what's going to be here today. Yeah, of all the Pokemon that I want to put away for now, Liz Jr. is definitely the one. I do not care very much for Ladybuzz, so just put you in the box for now, then we'll go take this egg, and we shall see what can be done with it. So unlike the original games, we have to go to the Pokemart in order to pick up the egg. Long time no see, July. I've been waiting for you. This is from Professor Elm. Thing is, we'd like you to take care of an egg. Sure thing. Who knows, this thing could end up becoming a very useful team member. After you left, Professor Elm received a phone call. I have no idea what they were talking about, but after a while, Professor Elm suddenly cried out, I can't think of anyone more suited for that than July. Then he insisted that I hand this egg to you. That's how I came to deliver the egg to you. Seems a Pokemon will hatch from it only when you keep it in your party of Pokemon. That's another reason we've chosen you, July. Please, take care of it. That we will. So Pokemon eggs are a pretty standard mechanic in the series. Eventually we'll gain the ability to get as many Pokemon eggs as we want, but that's not going to be for a little while. So eggs are something you can use to obtain a Pokemon, and once you receive the egg, in order for it to hatch, you just need to take a certain number of steps. The steps you need to take is dependent on the Pokemon that is inside the egg. So for this one, I don't actually know what Pokemon is inside it right now. Although, I bet if I checked Pokelink, it actually would say what's inside the egg. I'm going to leave it a surprise for now. For now, why don't we talk to this guy here? Good day, July, isn't it? I have a package for you from your mom. Here you go. So, I want to check Pokemart from time to time because your mother will send you items based on how much progress you have made in saving up money. In this case, she sent us over a Super Potion, which is definitely very good. It heals much more HP than a regular potion, so definitely want plenty of these. Let's go ahead and organize our items a bit more, just so I have them about where I want them. Alright, that's good. And we're going to need to stock up on some more medicine before we hit the road. So we are all done here in Violet City for the time being. Oh, so we can now buy super potions at stores now that we have obtained the... now that we got our first gym badge. Let's buy a couple potions and let's buy 5 more Pokeballs. It's actually more cost-effective to buy 10 Pokeballs, but we're not going to do that for the time being. Don't think we're going to need Super Potions until a bit later, so we'll hold off on those. Alright, let's get out of here! Oh, hello! Me oh my, that egg must be... I see, so it was handed from Mr. Pokemon to Professor Elm, then Professor Elm to you. Now I get it. That egg's truly an important egg. Please do take good care of it. Is that understood? I'm counting on you. So that's a certain someone that we have not seen back in the original Gold. So we get a few new characters popping in our story here in this version of the game, which is definitely very nice. Alright, but now that we have beaten this gym, there's also something that we are able to finally do. So if we go into our TM bag, we are now able to access the secondary effect of Rock Smash, which is definitely going to be a good one. I would kind of recommend teaching that to our Chimchar, but it's not going to be necessary given what you're going to learn later. So I'm going to give this to Squeaks. You're going to be our resident HM user, or HM buddy. There's a certain other fan term that typically gets used for Pokemon that gets slapped with HMs, but it's kind of an unfortunately named term, so I'm not going to be using that one. So Rock Smash, our Pokemon are able to smash rocks. And they can find items like a Revive. I'm not going to be using that item in this playthrough, sorry. We get an X attack over here. That's not what's normally in this area, but that is still nice. So yeah, with access to Rock Smash now, we are able to access a few things that we could not do before, which is certainly very helpful. Just want to quickly grab an apricorn here. Like I said before, apricorns will respawn once a day, so be sure to pick them up when you can. So I want to head back to Dark Cave, because I believe we could do something now that we have Rock Smash in here. And of course... yeah, the environment's kind of, you know... we'd be able to get rid of this big black square if we teach one of our Pokemon Flash. We are eventually going to be able to buy more TMs, so wouldn't it be too bad to teach this to someone. We're not going to need Foresight on you, so sure, we'll teach Lydia Flash. It's also a good debuff move, as it's able to lower the accuracy of a Pokemon. And that increases our field of vision inside dark caves. There aren't a whole lot of areas in this game where you need to use Flash, but it is pretty important, so you do want to make sure you have one Pokemon that has access to it. Except we're just going to be exploring a little bit of this area now that we have these new moves available to us. And then see what we can see. I can already see an item down there that, unfortunately, we cannot get. Yep, that is past a body of water, so that's going to be... Wow, Squeaks is finding all these revives for me. I'm sorry, Squeaks, I can't actually use these items. We head over to this part of the dark cave. Our path is blocked by a large boulder. Nothing we can do about that for the time being. So if you use Rock Smash, you can also sometimes encounter wild Pokemon that are hidden in the rocks, as we are doing right now. Volbeat. Alright, so I believe that is taking the place of a... Oh, you have download. Wow. So I believe that took the place of a Dunsparce that you normally be able to encounter here in Dark Cave. That's quite an interesting Pokemon. Not really the biggest fan of Volbeat, honestly, because it's kind of underpowered. But yeah, that's just some nice, easy experience for us. It's everything we can do in the Dark Cave for the time being. However, there is something new we can do if we return to the ruins of Alph that we have previously explored. So yeah, it is standard practice in the Pokemon series that whenever you gain access to a new attack or just new movement opportunities, you want to go back to areas you have previously visited before in order to be able to see what new stuff you're able to obtain. Which is certainly very helpful, especially because with the rule set that I am playing for this run, we can end up finding some really cool stuff here. So for instance, if we go around here in the ruins of Alph, there are these rocks scattered all about. And wait, we got a dome fossil from that rock. That's normally a very rare item that you get by breaking open rocks. Sadly, we're not going to be able to do anything with that dome fossil until much later, but ooh boy, that could get us something pretty good. Although, in all honesty, it could also give us something not so good. Alright, that was good. We picked up an Ultra Ball behind that rock. The blue shard we picked up, we can give to a certain person in Violet City in order to get some stuff from them, which is definitely very helpful. Shards are pretty nice items, even though for the most part they're only used for like one thing. But it is nice to gather as many of them as you can. They're pretty nice. Just gonna have Squeaks break all these boulders so we can see what we can find here. Glameow! What were you doing hiding under a rock? Sadly, this area is still the ruins of Alf, so we're not able to catch this thing. Although sometimes I know most Pokemon players play with a rule that they call pinwheel clause, where if you have an area with two separate encounter tables for Pokemon based on which section of the route you're exploring, then you're allowed to capture Pokemon for like each section of that area. That's not how it's going to be for this challenge. I'm only allowing myself to catch one Pokemon from like each area total. So since we already encountered something in the ruins of Alf that we had to unfortunately say no to, we are not able to catch anything on the surface. We'll say also with regards to HMs, I like the little added detail that if the Pokemon using the HM is out walking in the field with you, you actually get to see the Pokemon performing its action. But since we're putting Squeaks at the top of our party, we now have to take her out of the Pokeball in order for her to use the move. Again, it's just a very nice way of incorporating the walking Pokemon mechanic in this game in a natural way. Just really adds a lot, doesn't it, Walker? Seem dazzled from seeing the sky. I guess that is pretty standard for you. Alright, we picked up quite a few things in there, so let's go check our bounty. Got some nice vitamins there, and got some shards, as well as a fossil that we're not going to be able to use until much later on in the game. Oh man, but that is actually very good we got a fossil. We can actually sell that for money, given that I'm not going to be able to use it for a long time. Oh no, if I'm ever in a situation where I need to sell those kind of rare items for cash, I'm only going to do that if I am really desperate for money. But now that we have found all these shards, let's give them to this buddy here. And he'll just give us a bunch of berries. I believe I said this before, but the berry that he gives you is based on the color of the shard. So he'll always give you berries that correspond to that color of shard. And we're definitely getting a good supply of berries from this. This is one of the few ways you're able to get berries in this game, since they don't grow on trees. Imagine that. But yeah, we got a decent supply of these things now. Before we go any farther, I do want to check one thing if we're able to buy something at the store, because it would be very nice if we can right now. Yeah, we can buy an escape rope. I want to grab one of these. It's a very handy item as it allows you to escape from a dungeon without having to worry about backtracking to get out. So definitely very handy. However, in the Generation 2 games and the remakes, there is another thing we're able to do with an escape rope if we take it to a certain area. So we're going to be heading back into the ruins of Alf. And we are going to go up here, back into the room with the Kabuto mural. So if we go all the way back of this chamber, examine the wall here, it says, escape in unknown rooms. So what we need to do is use our escape rope in front of this wall. And that opens up a hidden room. Very nice. And we can get a ton of loot in here. Oh, that's so good. Hyper Potion, a Max Potion. That fully restores a Pokemon's HP, and we got 2 of those! Damn, that's good. And we get a Calcium. So we got some medicine and vitamins from that. Don't bother going into that hole farther along the chamber. It will just lead you into the ruins of Alph lower sections, which we don't need to explore anymore. Yeah, that was a really good haul of items. So yeah, hyper potions, these are real good as they restore 200 HP. And the max potion will always fully restore a Pokemon's HP. We are nowhere near the point in the game where we're going to be needing to use these items, but they're very handy if we ever come into a very desperate situation. And the revives here, we mainly want to grab hold of these to use them as selling fodder, as we're not actually going to be able to use them. So let me move a couple items around here, because I like to be organized. It's something that even as a kid I always noticed, like I really like to organize things in a very specific way. And it'd always get very antsy if something was put in its wrong place. Which definitely says a lot about me. Wait up! What's the hurry? You have some good Pokemon there. Must be from the training you gave around Violet City. The training at the gym must have been especially helpful. As a souvenir of Violet City, take this. Increase the power of Grass-type moves. So receive a Miracle Seed from this person after clearing the Violet Gym. Which will be nice if we ever come to the point where we need to use a Grass-type on the team. Which, given the nature of a randomizer run, we may eventually need a Grass-type with us for dealing with some certain Pokemon that are pretty notorious for only being weak to grass moves. There are actually quite a few that we can find in this generation, so definitely want to be on the lookout for a grass type. They can be helpful. Alright, so heal up our team before we head back out into the field. I know it's definitely not close to hatching, but how's our egg currently doing? It appears to move occasionally. Oh, that is actually good. That means it is about, I want to say, it should be about halfway to hatching. And so, you want to check the menu every time, every once in a while when you're trying to hatch an egg, as it'll let you know how close it is to eventually hatching. Oh, hi, Ditto. There's also the Pokemon that we caught on this route in the last session, which I'm a little mixed about. Ditto's an interesting Pokemon, but not one I'm really enthusiastic about using in this run. So hopefully we don't get to a point where we desperately need to have it on the team. Which we should be good. We still got a couple of encounters to make before the next gym, so hopefully we'll find some additional new team members. We'll have to see. I haven't seen you around before, so you think you're pretty tough. So while we're going through this route and dealing with some of the trainers in this area, I want to talk a little bit about some stuff that's been going on lately. Because I know it has certainly been a while since the last session. I don't know, last couple of weeks I just haven't really worked up the motivation to stream anything, which has certainly been a little unfortunate, but starting to feel a bit better, so hopefully we'll get some more action in the next couple of weeks. So I definitely want to get this run done before the end of the year. Oh, Swinub. Alright, that's actually very fitting. Swinub has snow warning. So that will cause a weather effect called hail to appear on the field. Hail is a unique weather condition, as it will make it so that any Pokemon that's not an ice type will take a bit of damage at the end of every turn, as we're going to see here. It's honestly not the best out of the weather moves, but it does complement ice types very nicely and you manage to get one with a good ability that is able to really make the use of it. Also just love getting to see a Swinub this early in a Johto game. I did use a Swinub previously in my Platinum streams, and it was definitely a good one. Definitely one of the stronger members of my team, and he was so useful in a lot of battles. Sadly, I'm not going to be able to use a member of the Swinub family unless I get really desperate for it. Yeah, let's heal Walker up here. Don't want to spend too many of my items going forward because we are actually pretty close to a Pokemon Center. Ooh, X-Accuracy, that's nice. So in terms of other stuff that's been going on, very recently I have started to play the Metroid Prime Remaster on the Switch, and aw man, such a great game. Like, I've certainly known a lot about Metroid Prime in the past, and I did finally get to experience it through the Metroid Prime trilogy back on its Wii U release. But just getting to play this advanced version of the original Metroid Prime on the Switch hardware, it's so fantastic. Like, it was already just such a great game back on the GameCube, but the remaster just really did a great job of capturing the feel of the original game. I would say it's probably the definitive version to play, especially with some of the little changes that have been made in between generations of consoles. Just such a great time, I cannot recommend it enough. In terms of progress, I am pretty much all set right now to go to the final area of the game, as I managed to very recently get every last item that I needed, so that's very good. And hopefully we should be seeing the end of that game after I'm done streaming here. Yeah, I have been really in such a mood to play a Metroid game recently. So I'm very excited to be able to play this. And it's just really been on my mind lately. So I'm definitely having fun with that. In terms of other stuff that I have done, I've also been making a bit of progress in completing my personal file on my Pokemon Crystal file. Managed to enter the second half of the game with that, and oh, what do you want, Joey? Howdy, it's Joey, how are you? Oh yeah, I saw a wild Pichu. Thought about going for it, but then I failed. Oh well, guess that's just the way it goes. I'm not very good at catching Pokemon. That would be very nice to get, because the Pikachu line is one that you don't really see too much in the Johto games until you get to the second half. Alright, let's put our buddy Sun up front here. Let's get you some action. Would definitely be needed. Oop, I can see Pokelink kind of glitching out here. Just ignore that for the time being. Alright, this section of the route kind of branches off into two paths. We're going to take the left path first, then get to the Pokemon Center, and then we will go deal with the second half of this area. So yeah, it's very nice getting to... Ooh, that is definitely a Pokemon to encounter early on. And thankfully, I have a Pokemon that counters you perfectly. Yeah, Steel-type Pokemon, if you're doing a randomizer run, can really throw you for a loop, because these things have so many resistances, and it's very likely you don't have a Pokemon that's able to counter them. Thankfully, I have Sun, and he has just what we need to bring the heat. But yeah, my personal Crystal file definitely been going pretty well. Then in the second half of the game, I have been doing a lot of good catches that I can do at that point, and making sure my team is prepared for the next couple of battles I have to do, because I'm like halfway to getting all of the gym badges in the second half of the game. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to making some more progress in that one. Certainly interesting to be playing in two separate versions of the Johto games at the moment. Well, I have this run that I'm going through, which is obviously going to be a lot more challenging, and then I have more of the standard Generation 2 experience. It's definitely going to be nice to compare how this challenge is going to go compared to that. Probably want to keep Sun in the front for something that's going to be coming up soon, but I want to make sure our levels are evenly spread among the party, as a lot of these are Pokemon that I do want to take as far as I can. So we are able to make sure to keep these guys alive. That would be very nice. So over here we get TM12 Taunt. So I don't believe that is normally the TM that we get in this area. So I believe I set things so that the TMs we can randomly find in the field can actually be TMs that will show up later. Just another element to the randomizer I wanted to do to make things a bit interesting, because we could end up finding some really good TMs really early on, and just have them really help to sway this run in our favor. So in terms of other stuff to talk about, one of the reasons I wasn't streaming the last couple of weeks is because there was quite a few charity streams that were going on that I wanted to tune into. Specifically, a ones hosted by the Charity Room, which is a little event that gets done every year that includes members of the channels Find the Computer Room, as well as Brain Scratch commentaries, as well as a few other different people. And it was just a very fun time getting to tune into their streams. Definitely a very funny crew, and definitely a lot of fun stuff has happened. And I also made a few donations to the charity they wanted to support that year, so it's very nice getting to be a small part in the events there. You fought wrong, buddy. Each Pokemon's its no nature. They seem different every time I catch one. So there must be many natures. Yes, there are. How would you like to have this tasty, nutritious Slowpoke tail? Well, you right now just $1 million. We can't afford that. We don't even have a job. Around here on this route, if you are playing this game on a Friday, you can encounter a certain NPC here that can give you a very nice item. So definitely want to look out for that. Alright, now that we're healed up the center, let's check some of the people here. I should make my Pokemon hold, maybe an item that increases its attack power. That'd certainly be helpful. This area is great for fishing! Look at all those people fishing. Do you feel like you want to try fishing too? Would you like one of my rods? That's a bit of an interesting question there. Yes. And with that, we obtain the old rod. When you want to go fishing, face the water and use the rod first. Then concentrate, look closely at the water. A beep appears when a Pokemon's taken a bite. Press the A button quickly to pull back on the line. You'll see what happens next. If there's water, be it the sea or a stream, try out your rod. This is a very good item that I'm definitely going to be using soon. Bonjour, how are you? Are you picking apricorns? Yes, I am. Way to go, little apricorn collector. I feel so great, I want to give you this. And he gives us some lure balls. Lure ball! This Pokeball makes it easy to catch the Pokemon that appear when you go fishing. Actually, this is made from apricorns. Consider those two as small gifts from me. If you want more, go to Zalia Town. A man called Kirk can make special Pokeballs out of apricorns. Apricorns rule! Yes, they do, in this generation at least. Yeah, an interesting little quirk with the original release of a Gold and Silver and all that is that the Pokeballs that you receive from apricorns are programmed a little off in that their bonuses don't actually work as they are set to certain values that are impossible to normally get going. Oh, that's a pretty appropriate Pokemon for you. However, in this game and beyond, you no longer have to worry about that, as the apricorn balls are now properly programmed. So for lure balls, they actually do have a higher chance of catching Pokemon that you're able to fish up with a rod. Definitely very useful. But now that we have that rod, I actually want to double back to some areas we have previously been to, as we now have the ability to catch some Pokemon that we normally wouldn't have been able to catch. That gave some good experience to Lydia. Definitely going to be helpful because Lydia's going to need a lot of experience to get really grown up. Teach you how to fish well if you like to exchange phone numbers with me. If you're playing the Gen 2 games, I highly recommend registering this guy in your phone, as he is a certain NPC that can alert you to Pokemon swarms, which is when a certain Pokemon will be much more plentiful at a given time of day. Definitely very useful. You made me lose that fish! Sorry. This guy's got a Wurmple. Not really the strongest. This should be pretty easy for us to take out. Yeah, go ahead and lower his speed. It's not like we're already naturally a very slow Pokemon to begin with. And we still outspeed you. Ha! So yeah, given the usual schedule I like to keep with my streams, well, I usually stream for at least 2 hours. Pichu with Sandstorm, that is very interesting. I'm feeling like we're probably not going to get to the next gym leader in this session, which I'm all for, because my Pokemon are going to need a lot of levels if we're going to be prepared for that battle, given what the gym leader normally uses. But that is fine. We've got a lot of opportunities to train ourselves up. So the main goal I want to make sure we get to is, I want to get to the next town, but also quite a few encounters that we can get now that we have the old rod, so I want to make sure we get those as well. Alright, one more Nightshade should take you out. Pichu, you really don't have a lot that's going to be really bad for us. You don't really learn a lot of good attacks at this stage in your life, and your stats are pretty pitiful. Just some easy Pokemon that we can... Well, you do have some attacks that can irritate us, because we got the deadly combination of Parafusion. Except, when you have a Pokemon that has multiple statuses stacked on him, it can be pretty annoying. Like, we're paralyzed, we're confused, we're getting our stats lowered, and there's a sandstorm slowly whittling us down. It can be really annoying to have to deal with all of that. Oh, thank God, we made it through the Parafusion checks. That's good. Pichu is down, and we still got something else to take care of. Yeah, typically fishermen will tend to use a lot of Pokemon that are just basically a bunch of fish Pokemon that they catch. So this guy's really nothing we gotta worry about here. As long as Lydia just stops attacking herself. Sadly, the Sandstorm is going to be lasting the entire battle because it was set up with an ability, so we're not going to be seeing the end of this thing until the battle is actually over. With a very least, Lydia should be able to take you out here. Ah, come on. There's always that one battle you run into that just seems to go on forever. Alright, Sulkun is down, so what's the last thing we gotta take care of? Last one is Tyrogue. Alright, this is another freebie because I know for a fact... Okay, it has Foresight, so it can actually attack Lydia now. But not worried about that. Tyrogue's a baby Pokemon. It has pretty low stats, and it doesn't get any good attacks at this point. So we should be good. Also, you're like level 5, so yeah, we're really in no bad spot here. Come on. There we go. Ah, man, what an irritating battle. Just a lot of things just making it kind of excruciating for us here. But hey, Lydia got some more experience, which is always helpful. Typically what I do whenever I do these kind of runs is always try to spread out the experience evenly among the team I am using. I don't see us really using Lydia for any more of these battles. Just leave you in the back for now. Oh, Bulbasaur. We got the perfect Pokemon to deal with you, Mr. Very First Pokemon in the Pokedex. Alright, son. Time to burn some onions. Well, just kind of cool to see a starter-on-starter battle here. Oh, man, it would be fun to use a Bulbasaur in this run, because it's such a good Pokemon. Bulbasaur line just very decently strong, and they learn a lot of status moves, so they can fit very nicely onto whatever team you're doing. And you got a Shroomish, another good grass type. Ah, man, this fisherman should probably change his career, given that he has a bunch of plants with him. It's a lot more fitting for a gardener than it does a fisherman. Well, it takes care of that battle. Splash? No. Grow. That is true. Some Pokemon that have trained and got a lot of battle experience are obviously stronger than those that are just caught in the wild. It has to do with effort values, but it's not something I'm really wanting to talk about too much here. I mean, I already talked a little bit about it when I was going over the vitamins that we had obtained previously. Let's get up to Violet City. We're going to go heal, and then we're going to make preparations for what we are going to be doing in this half of the session. Alright, first things first, want to register the old rod we had just obtained. So registering an item is pretty helpful, as it will be automatically set there on the touchscreen. So anytime we want to use that item, we can just press the corresponding button for it. In this case, the Y button, or Z key. Or we can just tap it on the touchscreen in order to automatically use it. Very handy. I really like how using registered item is in this game. It's so convenient. Now, on the subject of what we're going to be doing here, I want to quickly check our map here. As I had previously marked off the certain Pokemon that we have been able to catch in our areas we had previously visited. So it'd be nice to check the areas that we haven't gone to yet in order to take care of all that. So no, we had an encounter here in the Sprout Tower, but we were unable to catch that. But here in Violet City itself, we have not gone to Pokemon. Technically, we got our egg, but I'm counting that more as a gift. So much like Chimchar, it's a special Pokemon that is handed to us during our journey. And typically, a lot of players don't count gift Pokemon as the Pokemon you receive in that area. Alright, so to show things off here, we're going to cast our line into this body of water here in Violet City. And just want to be patient, wait for the exclamation mark to appear, and then we can fish up a Pokemon. In this case, Poochyena. And it's a pretty decent level too. So I believe with the old rod, every Pokemon you fish up will be at level 10. Which is pretty darn helpful at this point. So typically, you are most likely to run into Magikarp when you are fishing. Although there are some other Pokemon you can fish up like Poliwag and Tentacool. However, this is a randomizer run, which means we're going to be encountering a lot of Pokemon of a lot of different types. And honestly, pretty happy we got a Poochyena here. You know what, since we did fish you up, let's use our Lure Ball. What the hell? So I believe if it's not used with a corresponding Pokemon, then it will just use a normal Pokeball's catch rate. So yeah, that didn't go over too well. Let's use our regular Pokeball then. And there we go. Poochyena's going to be interesting. You are a Dark type, which gives you full immunity to at least one type in the game. Poochyena's not really the strongest Pokemon out there, and it doesn't really have the best moves, but it is a decent Pokemon. I've used them quite a bit in a lot of my previous runs. So what are we going to name this hyena? Because, yeah, Poochyena is based on hyenas. I mean, I could go with the typical reference and name you Shenzi, but I don't know. I want to try and make this a bit more original. But I got an idea for you. We'll name you Kenya. Still be a nice little reserve that we could use for later. Again, I am a fan of Poochyena. It's not really the best Pokemon out there, but I do like it. I have a soft spot for it. Alright, now that we got our Violet City encounter, we got another encounter back in Cherry Grove that we can do. So let's go head off to Cherry Grove and see what we can get. And while we're making our way back to this area, I do kind of want to talk about some other stuff. Namely for this session, I kind of want to talk about my origins with the Nuzlocke challenge in general. Since this is the first time I've really gone to really show off this kind of challenge in my streams. So my introduction to the Nuzlocke challenge, I'm sure, is pretty similar to how many people were introduced to it. I was browsing TV tropes back in the past during my days in high school. I was checking a lot of the Pokemon fan content section that is on the TV tropes page there. And I just happened to see Nuzlocke comics among the list of fan-created content. Curiously, I clicked on the link, and it talked about this particular challenge run. And the idea certainly intrigued me with being limited to the selection of Pokemon you can use throughout the game, and of course those Pokemon being permanently removed from play should they ever faint. It was definitely a pretty daunting challenge when it was first introduced to me, but after actually playing a Pokemon game with these rules myself, I found myself really enjoying it. And especially because a lot of the Nuzlocke runs that I saw early on were complemented with comics, which obviously was something that really hit me in a very personal way, because I used to really love drawing comics when I was a kid. I still kind of draw some comics from here and every now and then, but I haven't really been doing it as professionally as I used to. Or as frequently. Hey, but yeah, just getting to see a lot of people sharing their experiences of playing Pokemon with this challenge, and just getting to see all the illustrations, getting to see the storylines they're making, all the characters they create, it really inspired me, so I wanted to take this challenge and create my own story in order to share my experiences with others, and I just kind of get that feeling of being able to share something I create with others. And it was a good time. My first Nuzlocke run was actually in Pokemon Blue, so one of the earliest possible Pokemon games, obviously. Oh, Igglybuff. That is an interesting encounter there. It could be a pretty tanky Pokemon. Okay, that thing has download. That is pretty dang cool to see a baby have that ability. But yeah, my first Nuzlocke run, as I said, was in Blue, and it was certainly a pretty rough challenge. In total, I had 12 Pokemon die during the run. But all things considered, it still went very well, and I still really have a lot of attachment to the team I used in that run. And obviously, I drew my own comic based on my experiences in that challenge, and it was certainly something. You can see the full comic on my DeviantArt page. I got the link for it down in the bottom left corner of the stream there. And yeah, it was definitely a run I was very attached to. It definitely was very fun getting to experience this challenge for myself, and just growing better as a Pokemon player because of it. It truly came at a great time being exposed to this challenge too, because it was right before Generation 5 started, so I was getting exposed to this brand new way of playing Pokemon games along the same time we're getting a whole new generation of games. Man, that was just a wild time. And ever since then, I spent like the next 11 years of playing the Nuzlocke challenge in a variety of different Pokemon games. And for the most part, they've all been successful runs. There have been a few runs I've abandoned, but for the most part, I have tried to complete a Nuzlocke run from at least one game in every generation, and it's been pretty good. But enough of rambling about this. We gotta give a name to our little Igglybuff. What are we gonna call you? You got download. So I kind of imagine you being a bit of a hacker. Alright, since you are a female, I feel like this would be perfect for you. We're gonna call you Sakura, after Futaba Sakura from Persona 5. This is a character I really like, and I'm definitely hoping to eventually get to play Persona 5 at some point. It's definitely been on my radar for a long time. I want to play it so badly. Alright, so those are the encounters we're going to be making here at this point in our adventure. I guess we could technically go back to... Yeah, we could go back to New Barktown to try and get something else. Let's look at our team right now. Oh boy. Oh boy. Alright, so Kenya was holding a nugget, which is good. Okay, Bold is a pretty bad nature for you as that affects your physical attack negatively, but you have Guts. That is a pretty good desperation ability. And then, of course, we have Sakura, the Igglybuff. Your Adamant, which is not really the best for you. But that download is very tempting. Might actually be worth trying to raise these guys up in my own time and then seeing what we can do with them. I don't know, later on in this run, when it's easier to train Pokemon, I'm definitely going to try to make it a point to train up some of my reserves so that we have a good supply of Pokemon that we can easily switch in and out of the party. Yeah, our egg is still in that phase. Alright, since we still have at least one area we can check before we progress further along in this game, let us head back to New Barktown. As I said previously, I'm not counting Chimchar as our encounter for that area, as it was gifted to us and not outright caught in that area. I know it's kind of a rule that some people may not be too keen about, but I've seen a lot of people play with this rule set, and I do think it does hold a lot of nice weight to it. I mean, if we didn't, then that means the only thing we could catch in this area would be a Chimchar. Alright, we fished up a Seedot. That is pretty interesting. So that is a grass type that eventually becomes a grass dark type. So it already has like one leg up over our Poochyena. It's also a Pokemon that evolves really quickly, as this thing evolves at level 14, so might actually be worth training you up in my downtime to see what we can do. Alright, this thing is using Bide, so I want to see if we can catch this right now. Bite is always a very awkward move to deal with. Basically, any damage a Pokemon takes while it is using Bide, it will dish out twice as much damage back to its opponent. Definitely very serious if you manage to get blindsided by it. Alright, we got ourselves a Seedot. And for you, how about we name you Dottie? It's also a name that has a bit of significance to me, as the Animal Crossing series has a villager named Dottie that I was quite attached to because she was one of the first villagers I ever got back in my Animal Crossing City Folk game. But yeah, with that taken care of, that is now everything we can possibly catch with the old rod right now. So, it's time to double back to the Pokemon Center we had previously visited, so that we can actually move on with our journey. Yeah, I am quite happy with the catches we made here. Like, that Seedot that we caught could be a very good investment because it will gain that additional typing of Dark to it, and it is a pretty good one. Igglybuff I'm not really that keen about at the moment, but it could be useful given time, and I don't know, I'm feeling a little down about Kenya, given that her nature is kind of blah. Especially for a Pokemon that leans more toward physical moves. And this was the generation where Poochyena got so much better because of the physical special split. But it's okay. We got plenty of opportunities to use as many Pokemon as we want throughout this run, provided they don't kick the bucket. Alright, let's take this opportunity to check on our latest catch, because, oh man, Dottie could easily earn her spot in our party if they have a good set of natures here. Flame Body, and you have Lax. That's plus defense, negative special defense. That's pretty decent on you, honestly. And Flame Body's good as that will burn opponents. Yeah, I might try to train up Dottie in my own time, because that is very darn good. Alright, we definitely got a nice selection of reserves at the moment. We're not going to be really needing to dip our toes into getting to see our Pokemon. What? Alright, just give me a second here. So now is a good time to mention, for whatever reason, Heart Gold and Soul Silver just hate emulators so much. And sometimes you'll have moments like these where the game just glitches out your character's sprites. When that happens, I believe the easiest fix for that is just to save your game and reload. And then everything should be back to normal. There we go. Oh man, Snorkel, what happened? That was weird. But yeah, Heart Gold and Soul Silver are very unstable when it comes to emulation. So that's going to happen a few times throughout this run. So just something we got to be prepared for. Again, it's an easy fix. Just save and reload. Alright, so with all that taken care of, we're going to need to head all the way back to the Pokemon Center, down that route, which I believe is Route 32. So yeah, what's some other stuff that we are able to talk about on our way there? Well, I'm quite happy at the moment that all the Pokemon we have caught so far are not ones on our restricted list. As in, any Pokemon that I previously brought to the Hall of Fame in any of my stream series previously are ones that I am prioritizing the lowest out of any potential encounters we get. And thankfully we haven't run into a situation where we need to actually use one of those Pokemon or have them restricted, which is fairly nice. Yeah, going forward, we probably are going to start encountering some more of those specific Pokemon, but probably not going to give us too much trouble as long as we're able to catch a decent supply of Pokemon types. Which, so far, we actually got a decent selection. Like, already we got Fire, Water, and Grass covered, which is a very nice trio to have. Well, technically, because Dottie's not going to actually learn a Grass move until a bit later. But, you know, it's nice to have a good selection of Pokemon types when you're doing these kind of challenges, because you never know when you can be blindsided by one specific Pokemon that will just completely steamroll your entire party just because you don't have the one Pokemon that counters it. It's especially true for randomizer runs. Like, I've definitely had some interesting experience with randomizer runs in the past, where I just get into a certain battle where I have to play even more strategic than usual, because I don't have the one Pokemon that just makes these kind of fights a breeze. I mean, we kind of saw that earlier with that Clamperl we fought on Faulkner's team, because that thing was pretty vicious. With it being a Pokemon that's able to buff its defenses really quickly, it's able to trap opponents with Clamp and Whirlpool, that thing could have done some serious damage to our team had we not been properly prepared for it. Alright, Nugget, I definitely want to sell. That is an easy $5,000 in cash right there. And gonna go ahead and sell these revives, as we are not going to be needing them. So I believe the fossil we got is $500. So it's not too much of a boost in terms of money, but still pretty helpful. Oh, that's good. Sounds can be heard coming from inside. So I believe that means that the egg is 3/4 of the way to hatching. So just need to walk around a little bit more to see what's gonna come out of it. Aw, man, this could be pretty interesting, given what the Pokemon normally is in the vanilla games. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, 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 run, run, run! It's that right there! is a Gibble. I don't want to encounter that thing right now. So there are certain Pokemon that you can encounter that have very specific moves that can really be a pain in the dick. I am of course referring to attacks that do set damage. Gibble is able to learn one such move called Dragon Rage, which deals 40 damage, guaranteed. We don't have a Pokemon that can safely fight one of those things. And it's very likely at some point we might actually run into a trainer who has a Gibble. Yeah, we don't want that to happen. God, just running into those kind of Pokemon early on are so terrifying because they can easily wipe out your team in just 6 attacks. There was one previous randomizer run I was doing in Platinum where I got very unlucky and actually encountered someone with a Gibble early on. And he managed to take out 3 of my Pokemon because it had Dragon Rage. It was so brutal. God, that run had a lot of depths to it, but mostly early on, thankfully. So once I had a good solid team, things weren't really so bad. Definitely one of the things you gotta watch out for in these randomizer runs. Early on is when things are at its most dangerous, because you don't really have the best diversity in terms of your Pokemon selection. And should you run into that one battle that completely stonewalls your team, that could mean the end of the run right there. And hopefully we don't come to that in this challenge. Alright, well, with that taken care of, we are pretty much set to press onward in our journey. After we take care of this schmo. That badge, it's from Violet City. You beat Faulkner? Yes, we did. And let me tell you, it was a shell of a time. That's not a bird, that's a pig. I'm not too worried about this one. Squeaks should be pretty good for handling this one, especially because you have Rock Smash. I am very thankful that Rock Smash is in its Generation 4 iteration, as it's a bit stronger in these games than it was in the original Gold and Silver. So, just pretty handy to use. Oh boy, this guy's got a Combee. I'm sorry to say this, buddy, but if you're training up a male Combee, you're wasting your time. That thing is not gonna get stronger. And that would be pretty irritating if I was unlucky enough to run into a male Combee as my first encounter. What I like about the newer generation of games, especially Scarlet and Violet, in that you're able to actually see the gender of the Pokemon on the field, so you can easily tell which ones would be desirable to use. Nidoran I'm a bit concerned about because you could have a fighting move at this level, so let's go to Lydia to finish you off. Yeah, just a lot of things in Scarlet and Violet just so good for team building. Just easily able to check the any Pokemon on the field's level, what its gender is, if you want that for a specific Pokemon. I just really like a lot of the things with the Scarlet and Violet games. Which, nice segue to talk about this. So recently, my buddy Maryland has actually started up a Let's Play series on his channel about Pokemon Violet, which I'm definitely looking forward to checking out as much of it as I can, because I have gone on record saying how much I do enjoy Scarlet and Violet. For all its faults, it's still a solid entry in the Pokemon series. And just very fun to get to check out some of the stuff Maryland's doing in his playthrough. Like him getting to show off like a specific early encounter you're able to get in that game that normally you wouldn't be able to, that normally you'd think you'd only get until later. Just very cool. I'm really excited to continue to follow that series. So I would be playing one of my Scarlet or Violet files alongside him, as I tend to do with some other playthroughs I've done, but I kind of already started a Pokemon Scarlet run this year that I managed to finish, so I'm kind of wanting to hold off on getting back into a playthrough of those games until a bit later. But with that said, very recently we did get some new information. Ooh, Max Potion, that's good. We did get some new information with regards to the Scarlet and Violet DLC, which is looking really good. Like, say what you will about the visual presentation of the Generation 9 games, but I'm still really looking forward to this DLC, where he showed off a bunch of the stuff that we're going to be able to do in these next two areas we're going to get to explore. Ooh, Stunky. That's actually a pretty solid encounter here, as that is a poison and dark type. Also learns a lot of status moves that could be pretty handy to us, and it's actually a pretty good fighter and a decent tank. Only downside to this Pokemon is that it's going to take a while for it to evolve. So if we are using this thing, it's going to be a bit of a commitment, but we are going to bring you aboard if we can actually catch you here. Yep, there we go. Very little trouble, but Walker is poisoned. Gotta get back to the center and deal with that. Stunky, the skunk Pokemon. Alright, so we got ourselves a foul little skunk. What are we feeling for you? Kind of an odd name here, but how about Odia? It kind of sounds like odor, which is definitely fitting for a skunk Pokemon. Definitely want to check out what you have in terms of your stats, because it is a bit of an investment, but Stunky is a very solid Pokemon. This would be really useful to us. Plus, it gets 2 immunities. It's immune to being poisoned, and it's immune to being damaged by psychic attacks. That's very useful to have. Alright, let's check out what this girly has. I've been catching a lot of girls recently, I noticed. Look at this. We already got a full team of reserves. Hopefully that has come to it. You have TM24? I know I have it so these Pokemon have randomized items, but seriously. Speaking of which, your nature's serious. That's a neutral nature, so that's pretty good. And you have Tinted Lens. That's actually pretty helpful. It'll power up not very effective attacks that our Pokemon uses. So if Odia were, for example, to use Scratch against a rock or a steel-type Pokemon, instead of dealing half damage, the move would actually deal the normal amount of damage, which is pretty nice. And if they were to, say, use a move that does that Pokemon is ×4 resistant against, it would deal ×2. It would have ×2 resistance instead. But yeah, this is another good reserve. I'm definitely interested in trying to train up a few of these other Pokemon in my downtime. So that could be really useful to us in this playthrough. Alright, let's actually check out that TM that we got. TM24. We got Thunderbolt. And I'm pretty sure that if we come across a very certain move, we might be able to farm these off of Wild Stunky. So the reason I'm so excited about this, Thunderbolt is one of my favorite attacks in the entire series. Like, this thing is just so good. It's an electric attack that has 95 base power. It is super strong by this point in the game. And adding to that, this thing has insane coverage with the amount of Pokemon that are able to learn it. It is so amazing how many Pokemon can learn this attack. They don't even have to be electric types to learn it. Even Pokemon that you wouldn't be able to expect to learn this kind of attack, like frickin' Starmie, are able to learn it. Yeah, a water Pokemon is able to learn an electric move. It's insane how many Pokemon are able to have access to this attack. It's easily one of the most valuable moves you can have in the entire game because it's so useful, strikes a lot of Pokemon for neutral damage. Ah, it's so amazing. But God, trying to find the specific Pokemon I want to give this to is going to be interesting. Leaf. What do I want to do with you? Lydia can pierce your defenses, so you should be good for this. Don't think you have anything that's going to be really dangerous to Lydia here. Alright. Like I was saying earlier before I got totally distracted, I am still quite excited for the Scarlet and Violet DLC. Especially with a lot of the things they've shown off and a lot of the returning Pokemon that we're going to see in those games, as well as a lot of the new mechanics and new characters we're going to get to see who all look very cool. And they even shown off a couple new evolutions for some older Pokemon. And I must say it's very nice to see that we're getting new evolutions for Pokemon from the previous generation, as both Applin and Duraludon are getting new evolutions in this DLC. Yeah, just very nice, because we haven't gotten evolutions for Pokemon from the previous generation since Generation 4. Which, hey, pretty topical right now. Yeah, very excited for what the DLC is going to show off. Definitely looks like it's going to be a good time. If there's light, a cave isn't scary. If your strong Pokemon aren't scary. I don't know, man. I consider myself a pretty strong Pokemon battler, but even I'm terrified by what some of these guys can do. I mean, have you even read what Lydia's Pokedex entry is? It's horrifying. Alright, but enough talk about that. Ooh, Goldeen with rough skin. So that's gonna do damage to us every time we make contact with this thing. And we don't really have a lot of Pokemon with special moves that we can use here. It's kind of a downer, but we should be able to pull through here. Just need like one more good hit on this thing. Ooh. Okay, Walker's taking a lot of hits here. Let's pull you out. Yeah, Lydia can handle this one. Especially because I'm pretty sure Nightshade is able to get around the rough skin. I'll just imagine a goldfish with rough skin. Ugh. Alright, that goes down. And Lydia gets to 14. Very good. Astonish. So we're finally getting a stab attack on Lydia. That could be useful. Right now, Nightshade is already dealing in quite a bit. That's good for us. But it is nice to have at least a solid attack that we can actually deal super effective damage with. Even as I said before, Nightshade is already doing a lot for us. Just nice having a move that will deal set amount of damage. In this case, it does set damage of 14, which is certainly pretty helpful at this point. But as Pokemon start to get higher leveled and get better stats, eventually, hey, this move is not going to be as useful. So we gotta be prepared for that eventuality. Alright, let's heal up Walker, as I still want to get your levels up. You're actually pretty close to evolving, which I am very excited for, because just having a fully evolved normal type this early on is pretty good. Don't believe there are any items around here. It is helpful if you're exploring caves to try and check every rock you can. just in the off chance that there's an item hidden there. Eventually, we're going to get a tool that's going to make finding items so much more helpful. But for the time being, we're just kind of on our own. It's pretty fitting that we're encountering corefish down here, since this cave is full of water. Let's kind of talk more about this specific area, Union Cave. This area is quite interesting, is that it connects to quite a few areas. So we'll be coming back to this area much later on in the game to be able to access some of that stuff later on. And for those of you who are looking to complete the Pokédex in the vanilla games, I recommend coming around here on Fridays, as you're able to encounter a certain Pokemon here that's not normally encountered anywhere else. Alright, Walker learning Fury Swipes. Do I want to learn this? Could be helpful. We'll give it a scratch, since Quick Attack's going to be better anyway. But I'm not really seeing that going to be too useful on Walker. Wait, nope, sorry. Yeah, sometimes I get a little messed when it comes to organizing my Pokemon sometimes. Because I always organize them in my party based on their level as well as their max HP. That's how I've kind of been doing things ever since the 3rd generation, believe it or not. But yeah, definitely good to keep the team organized. It's just very useful. Ooh, Nikita. You're pretty interesting because we can get 2 Pokemon from this thing when it's fully evolved. But we're not going to be using you, obviously. Alright, so for the next couple of battles, I'm probably going to keep Sun in the lead, because you're going to be gaining something very soon. So just having you ready for that will be nice. So picked up the TM for Captivate there. Captivate's kind of interesting in that it will lower an opponent's stats, but only if they're the opposite gender of the user. Specifically, it lowers special attack. There aren't a whole lot of moves that lower special attack, so that can be useful. But it's very situational, since it only works on Pokemon of the opposite sex. So, yeah. Whoa, Weepin' Bell. That's definitely a bit higher than some of the other Pokemon we've been encountering here. Hopefully Sun should be able to take this thing out. Yeah, critical hit! I was a little surprised by that because of the way this randomizer is. So that hiker normally has an Onix, which at this point isn't too bad if you have a grass or water type Pokemon, but because we're dealing with same strength randomization, he instead got a Weepin' Bell. That thing could have been really dangerous if it got a chance to like really strut its stuff, because it has some pretty high stats compared to everything else in this area. Ooh, Makuhita. That's a fighting type Pokemon. That also would have been very helpful to us. But sadly, we do not have access to catching this thing for the time being. I do recommend these guys because they're quite strong and they have a lot of HP. Very solid Pokemon even in Nuzlocke runs. But with that, Sun got to level 14, which means it is finally time. Sun is evolving! Our little starter has reached his adolescent stage and become a Monferno. And with that, not only are we learning a new attack, which is Mach Punch, but our little monkey is now also a fire fighting type, which is really darn good. I'm going to get rid of Scratch because we do not need that. Yep, I'm just really happy about that. Bach Punch is a priority move like Quick Attack, only it's a fighting type attack. So yeah, obviously it's going to be very useful to us. So yeah, your physical attack is much better than your special attack, so I want to put that up. And oh, I just noticed what Sun's new ability is with your evolution. So you have no guard, so both Pokemon's and foes' attacks land. So that pretty much means that Sun's attacks are always guaranteed to hit the target. However, the opponent's attacks are also guaranteed to hit Sun. So it's definitely a double-edged sword of an ability. Be very helpful when your Pokemon has a moveset that can take advantage of it, but your opponents are also able to take advantage of that effect as well. So definitely something we want to watch out for. Sun is certainly very powerful, but his ability to dodge attacks has been completely nullified. So yeah, definitely something to keep in mind for later. Alright, he's gonna do the hustle with Russell, and he's got a Shuppet. Alright. It's not often we encounter Ghost-type Pokemon this early on, so this is a nice little surprise. Yeah, something you're definitely gonna notice as we're getting through these areas is that the trainer levels when it comes to their teams in these games are kinda bleh. By that I mean, look at this. The last boss we encountered in order to gain access to this area had a level 13 Pokemon. And yet we're running into people with level 6 Pokemon. Like, come on. Improve the levels a little bit. Okay, that's actually cool running into a Beldum. But even still... It's also something we want to watch out for in these games, because a lot of trainers in Johto will also use fully evolved Pokemon way earlier than they're supposed to have. So yeah, that's definitely something to watch out for when we're playing with the same strength randomization. I mean, you already got a neat selection of Pokemon, sir. You just need to train them so they're actually usable. Let's check around some of the rocks around here, see if there's anything. Sticky Barb. That is an interesting item, but not one I really use a whole lot. So the Sticky Barb is an item that you give your Pokemon a hold, and the Sticky Barb will deal damage to any Pokemon that holds it over time. However, the Sticky Barb will also change which Pokemon it is on if the Pokemon holding it gets hit by a contact move. So you're able to pass on the Sticky Barb to another Pokemon if they hit you. There are way better ways to deal that kind of damage nowadays, so Sticky Barb really isn't all that useful now, but it's certainly an item you can use. Bye, Turtwig. Alright, next up is, oh boy, Hippopotas. That's ground, so we're definitely switching out Sun. Snorkel should be able to handle you. Alright, Sand Attack, definitely going to be a bit of a pain here. Unless we can score the Water Gun. Yep, very nice. And a critical hit, too. Good work, Snorkel. I'm really happy I got a Horsey in this run. It's a Pokemon I very seldom use, but I really like it. Especially its final form. Oh man, that's going to be fun to use since I haven't previously used those kind of Pokemon in any of my previous streams. Alright. I believe there are a couple more items we can find in this cave. We're pretty close to the exit now. But still some stuff to grab around here, and a couple more Pokemon to train up against. Ooh, focus energy. Do I want that on you? Honestly, Bubble is inferior to Water Gun in every way, so we're just gonna forget that for focus energy. I mean, the only other good effect of Bubble is that we'll get a speed drop if we use that on Pokemon, but we don't need that. Snorkel has speed boost. Ooh, Slugma. That's not normally something you encounter in Johto, despite being a Generation 2 Pokemon. Yeah, for whatever reason, back in the original games, and in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, they stuck Slugma in the second half of the game. You can't even encounter them in the Johto region normally, which is really weird. Like, one of my friends always says that he always thinks that Slugma is a Hoenn Pokemon, because they are much more common to find in the main story in Ruby and Sapphire than they are in Johto. So, yeah. It's quite an interesting case for a Pokemon. I mean, I'm very glad that some of the rarer Pokemon from the older games are a lot more easy to encounter in the newer games. Oh boy. So this Makuhita here has a trapping ability. I mean, it has like Arena Trap or Shadow Tag or something. That's bad for Squeaks. This thing is a fighting type, and it most likely has a fighting type attack. Guess we just have to go for broke and hope she can take this thing out? Whew. Thankfully, Makuhita isn't very defensive. It has good HP, but its defenses aren't really the best. At least we know Squeaks can handle these things. We're encountering another one! Yay! Oh boy. Okay, she's able to handle these things if she gets a good damage roll. Unlike that. Gee mama. At least we handled that one. Grab the potion, very nice. And let's see what this guy's deal is. I roam far and wide to search a Pokemon. You're looking for Pokemon too? Then you're my collecting rival. If you're wondering why I'm giving this guy that voice, yeah. Whatever reason, they just made the Pokemaniacs like some of the craziest characters in the games. A lot of them will be in cosplay and stuff. Ow, why do you have rough skin? You're a bird. Oh boy. Yeah, we want to switch you out. Oh, I honestly don't have the best switch in here. I mean, Lydia's defensive, but you don't have a lot of HP. And we can't go to Sun because he's a fighting type now, and Staravia would be really bad for you. Let's look at her stats here. Yeah, Lydia has a lot of defense, but your HP isn't really the best. And also, Lydia doesn't have any moves that can damage Staravia, because it's only Ghost. So I guess it's gotta be between Snorkel and Walker. Snorkel has higher defense. At the very least, Snorkel will get the speed boost when we switch you in. Alright, we're gonna gauge the damage this thing is gonna do, and then we'll see. Alright, you're gonna get the speed boost after this. Let's heal you up, see what happens, and then we'll go on the offense. So I really don't want to lose someone this early on. Staravia is pretty fearsome at this point. Alright, there's our speed boost. Hopefully we can outspeed this thing. Yeah! Alright, one more hit should do it. This thing wasted its turn with a growl. I'm legitimately scared of this thing because Staravia are pretty powerful by this point in the game. But there we go! Very nice! And we beat Larry! Take that, fool! Alright, let us quickly heal up Squeeze, because you took a big beating against that bird. Yeah, that battle really could have turned sour had that Staravia been a bit more offensive. Thankfully, it totally wasted its actions. Otherwise, that would have been really bad. So I believe that's everything over on this end. There's not much we can do over here unless we have certain HM, so just keep on moving. And trying to think about some other things that we could talk about here. So a couple of weeks ago, something that I picked up, finally, was a Mario Kart 8 Deluxe on the Switch. I used to have the Wii U version. I mean, I still have the Wii U version of Mario Kart 8. But obviously, definitely going to be playing more of the Switch version because that's definitely the definitive version of that particular game. Especially with the amount of DLC that's been added to it in the recent years. Like, for whatever reason, Nintendo just decided to make that the game that they're going to include so much DLC that the game is going to be worth well over its price times 2. Like, we've been getting so many great booster courses that have added so much content into those games, making it just so much more worth purchasing this version of it. Like, goddamn, just the DLC they've added for it has been amazing. I've really been enjoying what I have played of that game. I mean, sure, a lot of the courses that they added in are repeat courses from some of the older games, and especially ones from Mario Kart Tour. And a lot of the stages really aren't the best when it comes to their visual presentation, but it's fine. I've already proven that I don't need a game with the best graphics to have a good time. I mean, just look at anything I played on this channel. But yeah, I've just been really having a blast with that game. And like, they've even added new characters you can get in the DLC too. Also getting to play a more recent Mario Kart game and just being able to play it with the Wiggler or PD Piranha or Birdo, it's a blast. Just really cannot recommend that game enough. It is well worth the price. And I even got it at a good discount too, so it was even more worth what I had paid for it. Just, man, it is so incredible. And I've had a lot of fun playing it with my friends, so that's reason enough for me to recommend it. It's a great time. But now that we're outside Union Cave, we are actually in a new route here. So I want to try and get our next catch here, which is Jigglypuff. After I had previously encountered an Igglybuff. Welp. Guess we gotta dance with the partner we brought. So I feel like now would be a good time to mention, when certain Nuzlocke players implement what is known as the Dupes Clause, where they can ignore the first encounter if it's the species of Pokemon they previously encountered, sometimes they have that rule play for the entire Pokemon family. So, for instance, if you catch a Spearow early on, and you encounter a Fearow as your first encounter in a later route, you can just ignore that if you want to. I am not going to be playing with that rule. For just personal reasons, I feel like it's not really that worth it. Because I'd rather take the opportunity to catch a higher level and also higher evolution stage of a Pokemon I'm not even using right now. So yep, we caught ourselves a Jigglypuff. And don't know what ability you have, so... Let's call you Melody, because I know Jigglypuff are well known for singing. And yep, that's another Pokemon added to our box. Very nice. Alright, let's heal up because I know we got another battle here, and this one could be interesting. Hello, sir. I came for the K, but I still have plenty of energy left. This is another trainer I highly recommend fighting if you're looking to fill up the Pokedex if you're playing the original versions of the games. As this guy will alert you to a certain Pokemon becoming more abundant inside Dark Cave, which definitely useful if you're looking to complete your Pokedex. Oh boy. Trapinch, what are you doing to us here? Not a big fan of these accuracy drops you're doing. Also, Trapinch in general is a pretty powerful Pokemon. Doesn't really have the best moves at this level, but it has an insanely high attack stat for a Pokemon you can get this early. Come on, Squeaks. His thing just keeps kicking sand at you. Just wash it off in the rain, girl. You can handle this. Come on, Squeaks. I know you can do it. Oh, boy. That was a big bite. Take another hit like that, Squeaks is done for. You know what? Let's wash away all this sand with water. Go snorkel. Thankfully, I don't have to worry about this thing outspeeding us, because Trapinch is also notoriously slow. So, we don't have to worry about that. Alright, actually landed the water gun. Let's take this sucker out. Very good. And what else do you got? Because I know you have a second Pokemon. Alright, Anthony's next Pokemon is Aron. Kind of an interesting setup he's got here. So Aron is a rock steel Pokemon, and fairly good one. I used it previously in one of my older streams. It's definitely a solid one to use. Whoa, you got more zip than me. Of course, I'm going to register you, Anthony. You are very useful to us. Not so much for the swarm encounter information, but you could be useful to train against later. Alright, so with that, we've taken on pretty much everything we can do before heading off to the next area. Welcome to Azalea Town! Who are you? You don't know us? We're Team Rocket! What? We broke up a while ago? Give me a break! We've not broken up! Actually, we did once, but we have come back to pursue Giovanni's ambition! Enough talking! Shut up and just beat it! Oh boy, it's these clowns again. Nothing's going on. It's unsafe to go in there, so I'm standing guard to make sure people don't wander in. Am I not a good Samaritan? Slowpoke Well, also known as the Rainmaker Well. Locals believe a Slowpoke's yawn summons the rain. Records show a Slowpoke's yawn ended a drought 400 years ago. Oh! And just as soon as we step into town, our egg is hatching. Oh, I just saw it pop up in the Pokelink. We got a Spinarak! Oh, I'm actually happy with this, because Spinarak is one of my favorite bug types. And I can think of no better name for you than Charlotte. Ah, man. The Spinarak we got, it's a lonely nature. That's actually really good. And your ability is kind of crap. Okay, we don't have to worry too much about that once you're evolved. Oh my god. Forgot about this. So, the egg you get from Professor Elm's aid. In the vanilla games, this thing hatches into a Togepi, and this very specific Pokemon also comes with a unique move unique to that specific Pokemon, and that it will be born with extrasensory. So even though the Pokemon species was randomized, it still kept the move that it would have obtained. Oh my god, that is hilarious. So it got like an 80 base power psychic attack on this little spider. That is so awesome. This could be another Pokemon I could consider using. I find bug poison types to be very underrated, and we actually got one with a really good nature, so Charlotte could be useful to us. It also evolves pretty quickly, so we don't have to worry too much about training you up. Yeah, I'll definitely consider what I'm going to train up in the future, because, yeah, that's going to be important to us. Alright, we're coming about close to where we're going to end things off. I do want to try and catch one more Pokemon, and then we're going to check things out around town. The Slowpoke have disappeared from town. I hear their tails are being sold somewhere. Ugh, that's kind of unfortunate. Great Ball's better for catching Pokemon than a Pokeball, but Kurtz might be better sometimes. That's true. The number of gym badges you have show how strong a trainer you are. The more badges you have, the better the items you'll see in shops. That is definitely true. There's nothing we can get from this clerk I'm really interested in. But as for you, yeah, your selection's more of the standard. Definitely want to try to purchase a few things later on. So picked up a max revive earlier. It's pretty much a revive, except it fully restores the HP of a Pokemon that is revived with it. And we also got some tiny mushrooms, which you can just sell. There's no other use for them. Alright, so got a good supply of money with that. Definitely want to stock up on our resources later. Alright, Charlotte. We do want to try and use you a bit later. Maybe. Do want to consider what Pokemon we're going to be using for some of the fights ahead. I'll definitely be planning that out in the future. But for now, let's put Charlotte away, so that we can go catch our next Pokemon. Also, let's look at some of the guys we haven't got a chance to see. Oh my god, our Jigglypuff is Anger Point! That's actually very fitting, considering the Jigglypuff in the anime would always get angry at people falling asleep after her singing performances. That is so good! Alright, let's look a little bit around town, and then we will sign out here. As we can see, you can store up to 30 Pokemon per box. Do any of your Pokemon know what they call the hidden moves? Pokemon faints, it just means it doesn't have the power to battle, and still use hidden moves outside of battle. So that means that we could be using hidden moves with a corpse. Just saying. I could help them discard the corpse in special machine that you can catch Pokemon. Before Pokeballs became available, everybody used apricorns to catch Pokemon. I like how that is a very strong game mechanic in Legends Arceus. How in order to craft Pokeballs, you actually have to craft resources you have to collect resources in order to craft them. So you actually gather apricorns from trees, and then you have to grab resources from stones in order to be able to fashion them into a Pokeball. God, I love Legends Arceus so much. Such a great game. We have this tough guy called Kurt in this town. You should be able to take care of it. Take care of what? To come and get Kurt to make some Pokeballs? A lot of people do just that. Examine this house here. Charcoal kiln. We let our Farfetch'd fetch branches. We examine that pile of logs here. We get a full heal. That's not normally what's found there, but it's what I found. All the Slowpoke have disappeared from the town. The Forest Protector may be angry with us. Maybe a bad open. We should stay in. Where have all the Slowpoke gone? Are they out playing somewhere? So I've got ourselves a quiet little village out by the side of a forest. You know about Slowpoke Tail? I hear it's tasty. Aren't you glad I told you that? Well, we can't access the gym until after we deal with Team Rocket. So, that's a thing. Cut through Azalea and you'll be in Ilex Forest. These skinny trees make it impossible to get through. The Charcoal Man's Pokemon can cut down trees. That they can, apparently. So over here is our first instance of a white apricorn. Definitely want to pick this one, which could be useful to us. And normally I would go into this house here, but I'm going to save that for the next session. Sup, this is Ralph, how are ya? I've been spending more time with my Staryu than I have with my kids. It's a bit sad, actually. Call your mom sometimes, too. Oh, Ralph. I like how much information we get from the various people who call us on the Pokegear. Like from that, we know that Ralph is a father. And that he doesn't spend much time with his kids because he's spending more time with his Pokemon. Neat. This forest is watched over by its protector. Stay out of mischief. Ilex Forest. I love that art there. So in here's a pretty neat area, but only really coming in here for one encounter. And it's this, apparently. We actually gonna be able to weaken you. You're a normal type, and from what I know our Pokemon moves are, we don't really have... I guess Walker could try to weaken you with Fury Swipes. So Zurill here is a baby Pokemon. Specifically, it's the baby form of the Marill family. If we could catch this thing, it would be pretty handy for us. As Marill are pretty decent water-type tanks. All around just pretty decent Pokemon. And a personal favorite of mine. But training them up from a little Azurill is pretty annoying because they have to evolve via friendship. Who knows how long that's going to take. Now we actually caught her. Yippee. Alright, Azurill. It's a little polka dot Pokemon. You know what? Since you're associated with polka dots and you're a mouse, we'll call you Minnie. It's a cute little name there. We've already got a ton of rodents, though. Oh, you have no guard, too. That's funny. Also, you have a defense-boosting nature, which is pretty good for the Marill family. But it's probably not a Pokemon I'm really going to be using during this run. Raising you up is going to be a bit of a pain. And I'll just leave it at that. But with that said, we are pretty much done with this session. Oh, I'm so glad that things here actually went better than they did in the last session, because I was really not a fan of things ending like an hour in that stream. But we did pretty good progress, managing to catch a bunch of new reserves for us, as well as making our way to Azalea Town, and we're getting to see a little bit of the story that's going on here. What do you have to say to end things off here, Squeaks? She looks happy. She's happy about what's coming up, and hopefully you are too. Next time in Pokemon SoulSilver, we're going to be finding just what's going on around Azalea Town, and hopefully getting into our second gym battle. Until next time, have a good day, and take care.